Thank you. So the name of this hearing, Biden and Mayorkas' open border, advancing cartel crime in America. I've heard this described as a sham. I've heard it described as theater. I heard it described as a complete waste of time. It's beyond explanation. People are dying and crimes are being committed. How is that a sham? How is that theater? How is any of that a waste of time? I want to thank all of you for being here today. Mr. Jones, Mr. Maltz, I want to thank you for your service in law enforcement. I too spent a career in law enforcement and retired from the NYPD as a detective. There is no doubt there is a crime crisis in America, thanks in part to the dereliction of duty of Secretary Mayorkas' wide open southwest border. I'm going to ask all of you, it's a yes or no question. Do you believe the Biden administration's soft on crime policies, such as their efforts to limit law enforcement access to surplus federal equipment and their restrictions on federal grant dollars to police departments, worsen our nation's crime crisis? Mr. Jones, yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Vaughn, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Maltz, yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Felbaugh-Brown, doctor, sorry, yes or no? No. Okay. So I've heard this also mentioned that we should be thankful that the numbers have fallen to such a low level. They're not low. There's still thousands upon thousands of people coming to this country illegally, and thousands more that we don't even know about. Quite frankly, it's like celebrating a Category 3 hurricane instead of a Category 4 hurricane. It's absurd. I want to focus on the law enforcement for a second. Mr. Jones, what are some of the main consequences for local law enforcement of increased cartel activity in their jurisdictions?
They're completely overrun on the southwest border. If you go to Arizona right now and you sit back with Sheriff Mark Lamb, let me tell you, I've embedded with his law enforcement agency. You realize one out of every 10 traffic stops that man is making and his personnel are in pursuits 70 miles into the country on Interstate 10. These agencies are overrun. The Texas Department of Public Safety has spent $9 billion from the state legislature to try to support operation between the ports of entry because we are overrun with crime.
Mr. Maltz, do you believe that law enforcement throughout this country faces more threats of violence because of our open borders?
Absolutely, and I also know they're retiring at record levels at the executive leadership level because they can't take it anymore. The mixed messages are overwhelming.
So you don't believe the lines at the pension section are just happen to happen?
I just know that I talk to people every day, and they're leaving law enforcement because morale is at a rock level, at the lowest level, because of this. They signed up to keep America safe.
I agree, and it's because of exactly failed leadership like this. Mr. Jones and Mr. Maltz, I'm going to ask you a question. Both of you have served in leadership capacities in law enforcement. Have ever and would you ever make a decision that would put any of your officers in danger?
Never.
Never.
Right. And that's why we're here today, because we're talking about cartels. We're talking about crime that's being committed. And we're talking about Secretary Mayorkas and his dereliction of duty. Why? Because he makes policies and carries out policies that have put people in danger, has put law enforcement in danger. I only have 40 seconds left. A general question to Mr. Jones and Mr. Maltz. What are the broader impacts on first responders, law enforcement, fire service, because of the cartel along the border? And please, if you could do 10 seconds apiece.
Completely overrun. When you look in South Texas right now, you've got Texas troopers who've been deployed for 2.5 years, 12,000 plus Texas National Guardmen, completely overrun and overwhelmed after.
Thank you, Mr. Maltz.
The criminals don't fear any repercussions of their actions because they're not being held accountable.
Exactly. So what we're seeing here today, we're answering the question to this hearing. So it's not a sham, it's not theater, it's not a waste of time, it's actually a mission. It's a mission to make this homeland, our homeland, the United States of America, safer for our children and our grandchildren. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.